Happy fall, my friend. I hope you and your family are getting settled into the swing of things for school. Hopefully, everyone is adjusted to early morning routines, busy schedules, and school sports. Now, I grew up doing gymnastics and then played volleyball, so I am no stranger to early practices and long tournaments. And now, as a pediatric PA, I get to guide patients through the challenges of feeding their child so they can perform at their best. Proper nutrition is crucial if we want our young athletes to thrive, but this isn't something we were taught in school. So I am so pumped for today's episode because you are going to hear a top-notch masterclass in sports nutrition. I'm Colleen Sloan, a registered dietitian, PA, and your nutrition mentor. Welcome to the Exam Room Nutrition Podcast, your guide to giving better nutrition advice. You're absolutely going to want to take notes or listen to the episode more than once because we are covering everything you need to know about sports nutrition and what makes it different from regular nutrition for the average adult. You'll learn about the best foods to eat before, during, and after exercise, strategies for patients who have a low appetite or just can't seem to eat before practice, how to properly hydrate, and simple snacks to keep on hand to ensure your child gets the nutrients they need, despite having a busy schedule. I told you you're in for a treat. Now let me introduce you to my guest. Amy Goodson is a registered dietitian and certified specialist in sports dietetics. She has worked with the Dallas Cowboys, Texas Rangers, TCU Athletics, Ben Hogan Sports Medicine, FC Dallas Soccer, the NBA G League, the Alliance of American Football League, many PGA Tour players, as well as thousands of middle school, high school, and endurance athletes. She is the creator of a free sports nutrition program for high schools called the Sports Nutrition Game Plan and is the owner of the Sports Nutrition Playbook, a business providing sports nutrition services for athletes. Amy is also the author of the Sports Nutrition Playbook, a play-by-play on sport nutrition for athletes, parents, coaches, and trainers. She's also the co-author of Swim, Bike, Run, Eat, and a nutrition contributor to retired NFL player Donald Driver's book, The 3D Body Revolution. If that wasn't enough, she also hosts her own podcast called the Sports Nutrition Playbook. Didn't I tell you today is going to be a good one? So get comfy and enjoy my conversation with Amy about sports nutrition. Amy, thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor speaking with you. So welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to talk on all things sports nutrition.
I want to first start our conversation with just really understanding how we should be fueling our patients and how we can educate the parents when they do ask, like, what should my child eat? So if you could walk us through kind of pre-fueling, what should they eat prior to practice or games, maybe during it, and then after fuel? Because I know there are some different components to that.
Yeah, so many parents don't exactly understand sports nutrition because they're thinking basic nutrition and how they might eat. So helping parents really dial in on pre, during, post-exercise fueling is key to help their kids. So pre-workout, pre-game, whatever that is, we really want to make sure that athletes have a good amount of carbohydrates, some protein, plenty of fluid. Those are really your three things. So carbohydrates, protein, fluid. We can have a little bit of color, like easy to digest vegetables or fruit, but that carbohydrate is going to be what's giving them energy. Protein's going to help stabilize their blood sugar. So when we talk carbs, we're thinking whole grains like bagels and bread, pasta, rice, potatoes. We talk protein, we're talking beef, chicken, dairy foods, eggs, depending on what time of day that it is. So I always tell parents to think about dividing their plate into thirds if it's like a day of training. So a third of it is carbohydrate, a third of it is protein, a third of it is color, fruits and vegetables, then about 16 to 20 ounces of fluid. Could be water, could be a sports drink, electrolyte, rich water, etc. So that's the way you can kind of think of shaping an athlete's plate, as you might say it. If it's a game day, a competition day, or a tournament day, I kind of reshape that plate to make half of it carbohydrate, a fourth of it protein, and a fourth of it color. Again, 16 to 20 ounces of fluid. The thought is that the more you move your body around, the more fuel that it needs. So I teach young athletes, if you had a car and you drove it around more often, you have to stop and put gas in it more often. It's the same concept with the body. So really trying to focus on that pre-fuel of carbohydrates, protein. From a meal perspective, we're typically talking about 2 to 4 hours before a training session. So putting that in context, if your kid has practice after school, that would be pre-workout meals, lunch. If they are playing an evening game, that pre-workout meal might look more like a 3 o'clock style meal. So kind of thinking through how to position the timing of that meal. And then pre-workout snacks oftentimes are designed just to give them a little bit of extra energy. So that could be as simple as a granola bar or a banana. If it's been a few hours since they've eaten, could be peanut butter crackers and a banana, or a protein bar and a fruit, something to just give them a little bit of extra energy. And then another 5 to 10 ounces of fluid to make sure that they're well hydrated. Big picture goal, we want them fueled, we want them hydrated leading into that workout. During a workout or a game, main goal, hydration. So we're talking 5 to 10 ounces of water or sports drink about every 20 minutes. A good way to think about that is a bottle an hour. Obviously, when it's more hot and humid outside, we need athletes probably drinking more because they're sweating more. And so when we talk about what they should be drinking, and if they've fueled well, they've hydrated well, and the workout's going to be hour, hour and a half, they're probably okay with water. Anything over 60 to 90 minutes, they really have to start taking in a sports drink to help provide them with the carbohydrate for energy, the fluid that they're sweating out, and then the electrolytes that they're also sweating out. So that becomes really important during a training session and or during a game. And we can dial in a little more into that in a second. But post-workout's all about recovery.
Hey, quick break from the episode. If you're slammed with back-to-back appointments and feel like there's zero time to squeeze in meaningful nutrition counseling, I've got something for you. The Behavior Change Toolkit is your go-to resource for turning quick conversations into lasting results. Inside this digital download, you'll find scripts that turn tricky conversations into easy wins, simple steps to follow when giving nutrition advice, and a customizable patient workbook that helps them make real progress at home. This isn't just advice or a course. It's a system that I use every day to help patients take action in under 7 minutes. Sounds perfect, right? Head to examroomnutrition.com/toolkit and snag your toolkit today. Now back to the episode.
So I like to say that recovery has 3 R's: replenish, rebuild, rehydrate. Replenish means you need carbohydrates to replace those energy stores. Rebuild means you need protein, obviously, to help repair lean muscle mass. Rehydrate, you need fluid. So when we talk about getting athletes a snack as soon as possible after a training session or a game, we typically want simple carbs and protein. So simple carbs and 15 to 25 grams of protein. So think about chocolate milk. Think about milk and a granola bar. Think about a smoothie made with milk, Greek yogurt, and frozen fruit. It can be an energy bar and a sports drink. So those are some of the solutions that we often recommend in that immediate post-workout window, then following that up with another more balanced meal of carbohydrates, protein, and color after that snack. And if they can't get a meal, getting in another more substantial snack. So that's kind of the outskirts of the big picture recommendations, and happy to dial in on any of the specifics that a lot of times parents are asking about.
I love how simple you made that. I think that was really helpful. And I wanted to linger here with carbohydrates because this is such a hot topic and such a concern for a lot of parents. And I personally would say with a lot of moms, a lot of the moms are simultaneously, deal with their weight and oftentimes are following a low carbohydrate diet, or they've listened to diet culture their whole life and they have such a negative idea of what carbohydrates are. So I would love for you to just answer that question of what is the purpose of carbohydrates and how can we reframe the parent's mind of the importance of carbohydrates for their budding athlete?
So one thing I always tell parents is remember that nutrition and sports nutrition are not the same thing. You as the parent sitting in the stands watching the soccer game is not the same as your athlete running around for 2 hours playing in the soccer game. And Colleen, one of the greatest examples that I love to give athletes and parents this is comparing it to the car again. So if you think of you had two neighbors and two neighbors go to work. One guy drives to work, parks his car, works there for 8 or 9 hours, gets in his car, drives home. The other guy drives to work, checks his email, but he's a sales rep. So he's driving all around, checking in with doctors' offices and nurses here, there, everywhere. Both guys have cars. Both guys drive to work. Both guys drive home. But my sales guy, he's going to have to get gas a lot more often because he's driving his car a lot more. Exact same concept with the body. The more you move your body, the more fuel, AKA carbohydrate, you need. So carbohydrate to your body is like fuel to a car. It's what really gives your body the energy to run, jump, think, all the things that your kids are asking their bodies to do over the course of the day. So when we talk about carbohydrate, I encourage parents to think about it as it's a source of fuel for your athletes. Without carbohydrate, they're likely to be pretty fatigued. So carbohydrate needs to be on the plate at each meal and snack to help keep your athletes well fueled. In a perfect world, we want them eating as many whole grains as possible. Brown rices, quinoa, whole grain bread. Obviously, that cannot always happen. And so the goal is to choose the best options available. One thing I will tell you about being a sports dietitian is there is ideal and there is what's actually possible in that moment. And sometimes if you're in a small town and you're, a parent's trying to grab a kid a snack at a tournament, they may not be able to find oatmeal. Find the granola bar that might have some oats in it. So really trying to focus on those whole grain options for that more complex, stabilized energy. Fruit is also a carbohydrate. So fruit is a nutrient-rich sugar, as I like to call it. And it's another great way to help young athletes get carbohydrate, get nutrients, as well as get additional hydration. So carbohydrates on the plate, every meal and snack, and thinking of it, reframing it more as a source of fuel for giving their kids the energy that they need to do whatever they're asking their body to do throughout the day.
Very helpful. So I would love for you to touch on some of those very quick sources of carbohydrates like a cinnamon bun or Rice Krispies treats that I actually see a lot of sports dietitians recommending. And I've even said this to some of my patients and their eyes bug out. They almost like have a panic attack because they know it's a really high sugar, quote, junk food. And so would those types of carbohydrates be okay? Obviously not ideal, but in that situation, are they okay? And what other type of quick snacks can a parent keep maybe in their bag or in their car to ensure that the child is fueled despite hectic schedules?
So when it comes to carbohydrate, it's all about when are you eating it, right? So if they're eating it as a part of just a generalized snack, ideally we're looking for those whole grain options. So, can you find a more whole grain granola bar at the gas station or whole grain crackers? A lot of them really have good choices. Now, if this is a parent picking a kid up a snack to take them straight to practice, to take them straight to a volleyball or baseball tournament, then to your point, those more simple digesting carbohydrates are key. So you could use a Nutri-Grain bar or a Rice Krispie treat or a more, easy to digest carbohydrate. One of my biggest recommendations for parents when they're grabbing on the go is always try to look for a carb protein combination. So these are things that you could throw in your bag. These are things that you can easily find at a gas station because when we pair a carb and protein together, we're going to get a little more stabilized energy level because we're stabilizing blood sugar, which is really important. So that could be as simple as a Nature Valley granola bar at the green pack at the gas station and a beef jerky stick. That could be a bag of trail mix that has nuts and dried fruit and M&Ms. Yes, a few M&Ms are going to be fine for your kid. That could very easily be a thing of a bag of pretzels and a little peanut butter to-go cup that you're bringing in your bag. So these are really simple solutions that parents can grab. Most all gas stations have protein bars that are going to be a blend of carbohydrate and protein. And lots of times you can find fresh fruit. You can probably find a banana or an apple. If not, a little applesauce packet would work. My recommendation in sports nutrition is some food is better than no food. So if you're always afraid of like, oh my gosh, that's not healthy or that's not whatever good enough for your athlete, try to balance it out. My key is if you can't find the perfect thing, look for the best or surround it with healthy friends. So if you can't find a whole grain granola bar, but you can find a Rice Krispie treat and a banana and some beef jerky, I'm like, great. Like we're balancing that out. So we have to stop looking at what's perfect and look more at what's more balanced and what's going to give my child the energy that they need to go do whatever activity that they're about to go do.
I just love how realistic and simple your recommendations are because Being a mom of an athlete is tough. We're on the go constantly. So I love that you simplify feeding and fueling their kids properly. I think that's really, really helpful. Now, I'm curious, are there any foods that athletes should avoid in general and prior to exercise or a tournament? Is there anything that they should steer clear of?
So I'm going to answer that two ways. So in general, I'm a big believer that all foods can fit. And kids are kids. You have to let kids be kids or you set them up for disaster later. So in general, for parents thinking about how they're feeding their athletes, I tell them, try to think about living by the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, try to give your kids those nutrient-rich foods that are going to help fuel their body, fuel their mind to go to school, give them the energy to play with their friends, whatever that they're doing. And so think of those whole grains, lean proteins, healthy fats, dairy foods like milk, cheese, and yogurt, lots of color with fruits and vegetables. 20% of the time, let a kid be a kid. And it's the same for adults. I mean, let a human be a human, honestly. And I don't call it cheat days or like splurging. Think of it as you're eating foods that taste good, but may not have as many nutrients as some of the other ones. And so that is a good way to think about fueling in general. The majority of the time, we're looking for nutrient-rich foods, but we're always allowing those small windows for fun foods that may not necessarily be the, beacon of nutrition, but they're foods that your athletes and your family enjoy. Now, specifically when we talk about pre-workout or pre-game, pre-competition, there are some things we want to take out just so we don't cause gastrointestinal distress during a workout or during a game. So typically we do not want a lot of really high fat foods. Now, can your kid have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Yes. Can you put some avocado on a wrap? Sure. I mean, don't have your kid go eat fried chicken, chicken strips, and French fries and like go to practice or go to the game. It's too much. You'll hear athletes say that sits heavy in my stomach. It usually just makes them feel really full. So we want to try to reduce the high fat meals. Typically not anything garlicky, spicy, those types of foods that can cause gastrointestinal distress. Whereas if you got outside and started running, you're like, oh gosh, that doesn't make me feel very good. And so trying to limit some of those, just anything real spicy typically is going to be a problem. And then nothing super high fiber. Yes, your kid can have a whole wheat bagel. Don't give your kid Brussels sprouts before going to practice. Like it's too much. So if they're going to have a vegetable, it needs to be more easy to digest. Think salad, green beans, carrots, corn, those types of foods. And so lower in fat, trying to eliminate those spicy, garlicky foods, and then lower in fiber, just going to make for a better GI experience when you get to practice or to a game.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to be feeding our kids anything that's going to be slowing them down or upsetting their little tummies. So what I would like to discuss now is the athlete who maybe has a low appetite or feels like they can't eat before they work out. I hear this a lot, even from adults, especially if you work out really early in the morning. If you're, hitting the pool at 5 or 6 a.m., that's very early to try to eat. So I would love to hear some strategies for that, whether it's an early morning workout or even just prior to an afternoon workout and they just don't feel hungry. How can we help these patients properly fuel themselves?
So not feeling hungry is pretty common, especially early morning workouts. The challenge is I really need you to fuel your activity. And, I get athletes of all ages that will tell me, I feel fine. I feel fine. I don't need anything. And my question is, do you want to survive your workout or thrive through your workout? And no one gets better in games. You get better at practice. So if you want to run faster, jump higher, lift heavier, I need to fuel running faster, jumping higher, and lifting heavier. And I have, kids that tell me, oh, I can't eat in the morning. And I'm like, you don't want to run sprints or lift heavy at 6 a.m. either, but you do it. And just like you can train your body to jump high and lift heavy, you can train it to eat a granola bar. You might have to work at it, right? So you might have to get a little bit of practice, just like anything. You don't go run a marathon, you run 1 mile. So trying to get in some nutrition. So my best recommendation is to choose foods that are more nutrient dense. Nutrient dense meaning foods that have more calories per bite, so you don't have to take as many bites. Typically, volume is the problem in a runner, a swimmer, anybody like that stomach. So thinking of foods that are really, really dense. So are there, little energy bars that are carb protein that have more calories in their small little bars? I love the concept of the energy bites that are made with peanut butter, honey, oats, and, whether it's protein powder or non-fat dry milk powder, you can add dried fruit in those, little chocolate chips, whatever you want. But, eating 2 or 3 of those little balls will give you 200 or 300 calories. Mini muffins, there's a brand I love called Bobo's Oat Bites, and they're individually packaged mini muffins. They're made with oats. They're delicious, and each little muffin is 150 to 160 calories. I mean, these little muffins are 2 or 3 bites for a kid. And so very quickly, without a lot of food, you could get some good nutrition. Granola is also a win. So there are a few brands that make a protein granola. So Kind Bar makes one, Nature Valley and Bare Naked. They have about 10 grams of protein, but at 45 carbs and like 2/3 of a cup of granola, you're literally getting almost 300 calories. Very easy to eat, good energy, not a lot of volume. So looking for some of those foods, even things like peanut butter crackers or the peanut butter filled pretzels that have the little salt specks on the outside, those can be good as well. They're all these foods are a little dense, so they will make you drink some fluid, which is good because I need athletes drinking something before they go to practice. But these are simple solutions, thinking more calories per bite so that they don't have to have as much volume in their stomachs.
Really helpful tips. Now, I'm curious as to your thoughts for post-workout fueling on like a protein shake or protein supplement. What are your thoughts on those?
So we need protein. So we want athletes to get in approximately 15 to 25 grams of protein as soon as we can post-workout, paired with simple sugar. That's going to jumpstart the recovery process. And so protein is all about getting in those essential amino acids. And so it can come in a lot of different ways. It does not have to come in protein powder. So for example, milk and chocolate milk are great solutions for kids. It's in their school cafeteria. It's at, the convenience store down the road. It's at home. Very simple, especially if your kids are going to practice or have first period athletics and then are going to be going to class. That's a great way to tell parents, have them swing by the cafeteria, pick up 2 chocolate milks. That's 16 grams of protein very easily. So I love that. You can also make smoothies. Yes, you can make smoothies with protein powder and fruit, but you can also make it with off-brand Greek yogurt, milk, and frozen fruit. And we are getting the same thing in. So a lot of people think, oh, does it have to be a protein powder? No, it needs to be high quality protein, which we're going to find in all animal foods. Can it be a protein powder? And are they often used for the convenience of it? Yes, but it doesn't have to be. There's also a variety of ready to drink shakes on the market that are like little protein shakes. I love you'll see like Core Powers and Muscle Milks and things of that nature. Those are great. They're designed to be simple. Are they more expensive? Yes. Can you concoct the same thing with, some chocolate milk and a string cheese? Yes. So thinking through affordability wise, what do you have? Convenience wise, what do you have? If there's no refrigeration, it might need to be a protein bar and a sports drink. If there is refrigeration, could be chocolate milk. But, so really kind of thinking through some of those things. If you are going to use a protein powder, we do want it to be third-party tested by NSF, certified for sport or informed sport, just to ensure the quality and the safety of that. But it can be as simple as chocolate milk.
So helpful. And I love that you pointed out that supplements are more expensive and we don't need an additional supplement. Really, you can get all of the nutrients from food. So I love that because it doesn't put the pressure on the parents to spend more money. They're already spending their entire paycheck on their child's sport itself and the equipment needed. So keeping it simple with using products that are easy to find and affordable, I love that because we have to meet the patients where they are and make recommendations that can fit within their lifestyle. So that's really, really helpful. So we've touched on carbohydrates. I hope by now you guys really understand that those are the most important nutrient to fuel your teen athletes. We've talked a little bit about protein, and you have mentioned also in every pre, during, and post fueling the importance of hydration. So I want to sit here for a little bit because this actually does come up a lot for us in pediatrics. Parents will ask us all the time, well, how much water should my kid drink? And if you're not a dietitian, you have no idea because you didn't really learn the calculations. So I would love for you to kind of walk us through determining how much water an athlete needs, when they should be drinking this, and how we can make these recommendations to parents in a quick well check.
So let's talk to it as generalized hydration recommendations and then the pre, during, post. So generalized hydration recommendations, it's all about fluid. It doesn't necessarily have to be water. So I always encourage parents to remember that Fluid can be water. It can be milk, chocolate milk, smoothies, 100% juice, a sports drink. All of those things are going to contribute to an athlete's hydration over the course of the day. If you look at kids like age 9 to 13, so that adolescent range, the general hydration recommendations are about 70 ounces for female athletes and 80 ounces for males. As you get a little bit bigger, age 14 to 18, it's around 80 ounces for females and 110 ounces for males. My best rule of thumb, honestly, is to teach athletes to look at the color of your urine. Pale yellow to clear, thumbs up. You're probably doing a good job. If your urine is the color of apple juice or darker, bad news. You need to go find a water bottle real quick. It's a very simple test. It takes no people, no money, no type of specialized test. An athlete can check that every single day throughout the day. There's more times when you're going to be more dehydrated, when it's hot and humid, if you're sweating more, if you're in two-a-days, if you're playing in a tournament. So that's going to be things to recommend to parents, like teach your kids to pay attention to that. That'll be key for overall hydration. When we talk specifically pre, during, and post-exercise, typically with that pre-workout meal, we're wanting about 16 to 20 ounces of fluid. Water, sports drink are usually going to be our solutions there. And then continuously hydrating, getting at least another 5 to 10 ounces in that 30-ish minute window before the workout or the game. But the key is really consistent hydration. I mentioned that during a workout or a game, it's about 5 to 10 ounces of fluid for every 20 minutes of activity. Think of that, it's about a bottle an hour. So water, sports drink. Post-workout, if your athlete weighs, specifically if you have an athlete that plays football, they're likely going to weigh pre and post. It's 16 to 20 ounces per pound lost. If your athlete has no idea what they lose, I always say, let's go with 16 to 20 ounces and then look at the color of your urine and keep hydrating until we get it to that color. The one thing that's important for parents to understand is that just a 2% level of dehydration in the body equates to about a 10% decrease in performance. As dehydration gets worse, performance declines more. And what's funny about that is that hydration is one of the things athletes are the most terrible about. I worked in college sports for 10 and a half years, and our baseball coach, he was like, there's so many things in sports you can't control. What you can't control is what you eat and you drink. So why wouldn't you control what you can control? And hydration is one of those things. It does take a little bit of remembering and paying attention, but I'll encourage kids, if you can't remember, put it on your phone so it beeps or vibrates at you. Put little reminders to drink and then assess your urine color to see where you are throughout the day.
I love those tips because as you were talking, I was just thinking about, well, there are barriers to that. I think one of my favorite recommendations is for athletes to just get a big water bottle and carry it with them and refill it throughout the day. Now, what about for the patients who don't like the taste of water? I would love for you to kind of give us some suggestions on that.
So again, it's not really a water recommendation. It's a fluid recommendation. So for lots of kids that need lots of nutrition because they're growing and developing, you can obviously look at sports drinks when it's around a sporting activity. I always say sports drinks are just that, drink while playing sport. There's other electrolyte beverages, flavored waters that you can give them sometimes a lot of them have electrolytes in them. They might even have vitamins, minerals, etc. But the other thing that I will tell parents is think of how you can hydrate your kids with added nutrients. So I've said it a few times, but the milks, chocolate milk, making a smoothie, it's a great way to give your kids nutrition plus hydration. And so those can be really optimal solutions throughout the day. What I really don't want them doing is consistently drinking soda, just fruity beverages, the lemonades, and I'm in Texas, sweet tea, all of those. Typically because while an athlete might be able to handle the calories of those beverages, it's just simple sugar, no nutrients really associated with that. So it's giving them fluid, but nothing else. So if I'm going to give them like calories, I want to give them nutrient-rich calories. I might have antioxidants like I might find in tart cherry juice or pomegranate juice. High quality protein that I'm going to find in milk or chocolate milk. So these are excellent ways to help get your kids additional nutrients, as well as helping them stay hydrated with flavors that they like and things that they'll actually drink.
Awesome. Such helpful advice. And so you've mentioned so many things that just have my wheels turning and like more questions that I'm having. So I would definitely love to have you back on because I want to touch on sports
Yeah.
drinks because that's a big hot topic around parents and athletes. I would love to talk a little bit more about supplements and dealing with picky eaters. So I would love for you to come back with us to touch on these hot topics in sports nutrition. But before we sign off, Amy, just share with my listeners where they can find you, if they like to follow you on social media, and where they can learn more about you and their services that you provide.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So in social media, on Instagram and YouTube, you can find me at the Sports Nutrition Playbook. Free information that we're trying to put out all the time for parents and athletes. And then I have a podcast as well. It's the Sports Nutrition Playbook. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. And then our website is thesportsnutritionplaybook.com. We have on-demand programs. We do one-on-one counseling for athletes with sports dietitians. So a great way to get free resources. And then also if you need more individualized help, reach out to us on our website and we can get you set up.
Amy, one of my favorite questions to end our interview with is, what is the worst piece of advice that clinicians should stop saying or they should just never say to a teen or a young athlete?
To a young athlete or a teen athlete, never tell them to don't eat carbohydrates or sugar. It's not realistic. We need athletes eating carbohydrates, and there's so much misinformation and confusion in the media, in social media, and we have more athletes than not under fueling because they're scared to eat certain things because they think they're bad for them. So really reframing and changing the conversation about how can we choose the best choices to fuel our bodies is going to be key when you're talking to athletes and parents.
Such a great piece of advice, and I'm so grateful for that. I can't wait to have you back on. I'll see you next week where we can discuss the hot topics in sports nutrition.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Didn't I tell you you were going to listen to an absolute masterclass on sports nutrition? Oh, it was just so good, and I'm so grateful for Amy for her time. So I'm going to be closing some of my episodes with my thoughts of this week, and these may come from things that I've experienced with my patients or my family, or just from newsletters from other brilliant business coaches that I've learned from. So today I wanted to leave you with a quote from James Clear. It says, when you're younger, it's easy to underestimate how fleeting the days can be. Each choice matters. Each day matters. When you're older, it's easy to underestimate how much opportunity you still have. Don't talk yourself out of it. It's never too late to start. I hope that encourages you today, my friend, and I will see you next week for another episode of the Exam Room Nutrition Podcast. As always, let's continue to make our patients healthy, one exam room at a time. I'll see you next week.